And we're live. Ring the Bell podcast live on Insane Games TV, episode 9 here on the channel. This Wednesday, busy Wednesday here on the channel. Welcome into the program. Of course, Tyler and I going over all the WWE news, rumors, and conversations for this week. Let me just make sure our sound is good before we jump in here. And it's good. Perfect. We got a lot to go over this week throughout AEW, WWE. A lot of stuff going on. Kind of still a little bit after the Royal Rumble. We had a lot of talk last week about the Royal Rumble, and that went pretty much all episode long. It was a pretty decent event, which led to a lot of different storylines and stuff that we'll go over here tonight, and so on. But big news. I know, Tyler, you kind of WWE is starting with the Super Showdown stuff that they're doing, and obviously I voiced my displeasure with that over the last couple episodes that we've had, and of course when they start doing this, they start bringing in all the big time wrestlers that should have retired 10 years ago, like Goldberg, and rumored to be Sting, and rumored to be all these other wrestlers, and of course we're setting up for one of those pay-per-view events again, and I'll say a little bit and I'll let you go, and kind of I guess throw this as the dual hot take of the episode, but my opinion is, we go down this road, and they normally do like a month before it goes live, and they do these different storylines that really don't involve around the storylines in WWE, and I just feel like it's something that just doesn't fit in with the product. I mean, I get they make money off of it, they do it overseas. I just feel like it doesn't fit in with the product and to fit in with the storylines. It gets people confused of what's going on and what's not going on, and thank you. And I just feel like it's not appropriate for what they got going on in the product. And I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about it a little bit? I mean, do you think it fits in pretty well, or?
Not necessarily. I feel like the Super Showdown is an audition for retired wrestlers to see if they still got it, and if WWE can use them in future episodes and whatnot. I just feel like a lot of the storylines just are forced at most part, which they are because all these guys are legends and whatnot of WWE. I understand why they do it. They're trying to expand their reach in Saudi Arabia, the Middle East, everything, and so on. But a lot of the times, that Super Showdown comes on, I'm not even excited because you got guys that, can barely move around in the ring. You have guys that are, forcing the storylines just so they can have a few matches to add to the card. So I feel like, if I could say that it was anything, I feel like it would be more like the retired man's WrestleMania. Like the big event for all the guys that are coming back, like Goldberg, Undertaker, you name it. They're going to, try and add guys back into it that they want to see wrestle one more match. But, it seems forced at most parts.
I just not, I agree with you. I mean, I guess it could be an interesting concept if they made it for like they made it for the retired wrestlers like Hulk Hogan, and which I'm sure will be part of it. Hulk Hogan. Like I think the last one, I think the main retired superstars was, if I'm not mistaken, it was Team Flair versus Team Hogan, and that was the main event, and they kind of were able to work in Ric Flair into the storylines and Hulk Hogan into the storylines, and I think I guess the event could be good if they used wrestlers that aren't involved in current storylines, but I feel like they try to put these wrestlers that are in the middle of other storylines out on this pay-per-view, and then I get it if you're gonna make this pay-per-view and you're not going to make it involved in the WWE storyline, but then you don't really advertise it that much. But they advertise it to, like, it's all over Raw programming. It's all over SmackDown programming. It's all over NXT programming. And it's just like, it's just one of those, okay, so we're advertising these matches, but they don't really fall into the current storylines. And I mean, and every once in a while, one or two matches may fall into the storyline, but nothing's going to happen with it. It's kind of like one of those, okay, we're just going to put this match together, but you don't have to worry about it because we're not going to be doing anything or changing any titles.
Here's my take. I think the biggest thing is for WWE at this point, you already have 12 main pay-per-views throughout the whole entire year. At this point, less is more. I understand that you're trying to expand your audience and viewership into different countries, different areas of the world, but why not just hold a pay-per-view in that area and make it a big one instead of adding, kind of like forcing it in there. It's kind of like forcing the All-Star game into some sports into the schedule, trying to find where these athletes can perform just for one more time, or to find where they can have one more spectacle.
And they probably get paid a lot. I'm sure it's
they definitely get paid a lot. I don't doubt that whatsoever. I mean, WWE's getting paid a lot for having the event there. I mean, especially in one of the richest countries in the world.
But I guess my problem is, do we not remember? I mean, at what point? I mean, let me ask you a question, Tyler. If you were a wrestler for WWE, and who knows how much they're really paying these guys? I don't know. I mean, maybe the big time guys like Sting, Ric Flair, Hogan, Undertaker, Brock Lesnar. But let's say you're the average small time wrestler or mid card wrestler. They're not paying you that much to go over there. Let's be serious. So are you going to risk yourself going over there? I mean, look what happened last time. We had the whole storyline, or not the storyline, but like the news stories going around that their planes got held up and they were purposely holding the jets because there was money at ransom or whatever the case may be. I mean, do you remember this?
And then you got commentators that can't show up the next day for Raw, and same with SmackDown and NXT. It's just, I don't know. I just, like I said, it's forced to me, and I think it's a great idea, but why not just? And here's another thing. It's tough because it's halfway around the world. Most of these guys are traveling 14 to 16 hours to go to Saudi Arabia to perform, and then some of them have Raw the next night. I mean, it just wears on the performers as a whole. Maybe they should hold it on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. There's a lot of things that go into it. I think it could be better, and they can make it better. They could add a lot more hype. They can have better matches where it's more involved with the storyline. I think it's great, but I feel like they're underusing it at this point.
I agree. And Mr. Wet in chat calling out Paul White, the Big Show, like usual. Might be a big Paul White fan in chat. But yeah, I mean, I think don't they normally do it on Friday nights? The Saudi Arabia, it's like a Friday night match, isn't it? Or don't they? Maybe
they
not.
They may, and most of the time, I think the last one was on Friday night. Now that you say that. But now they can't do that because SmackDown's on Friday. What are you gonna do?
No, that's actually true. I didn't think about that. So what do they do? So they basically have to, and I think they got like a 6-year. Like it's not like a small time contract. They just like renewed for like another 5 years. So if they do 2 a year, you're looking at another 10 to 15 pay-per-views that they're gonna be doing. That they're gonna be doing in Saudi Arabia. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I think it's. But they make money on it, and that's how they do it. And what are you going to do, I guess? I mean,
all that matters is the money.
I mean, I guess there's people out there who want to watch. I mean, any content is good content for WWE, so they watch it. But I'm trying to look up if they announced any matches so far for it. I don't think they have not. I don't think they have announced too much.
I mean, the biggest one was from, and we'll get into this, was from Raw, but.
But yeah, so that's kind of the hot take I think for this episode is you and I discussing the Super Showdown, which I've never really watched much of them. I don't think they're that entertaining. I mean, I guess like I said, if they're building shows and stuff for the WWE network, I guess it serves as a purpose for that, and it fills up some schedule space for them there, and of course they obviously make money through Saudi Arabia, but I just don't. If I'm a wrestler, I don't know what the risk is and why they want to risk themselves. It basically jeopardized, like you said, it basically jeopardized the SmackDown episode when they did it 6 months ago, when the announced team couldn't be there and half the wrestling squad couldn't be there, where they actually had to bring in. That's where I don't know if you remember. That's where they actually began the NXT Invasion storyline, where they couldn't fill the whole card for SmackDown, so they had to have NXT wrestlers come. And that's where Triple H and Shawn Michaels showed up, and with Adam Cole, and they actually introduced the whole NXT into the whole Survival Series storyline. They kind of saved themselves with that a little bit, but that's where that storyline began because they couldn't fill a roster. But so let's go. You want to go into some current events from this week around this?
Yeah. We could start with Wednesday. I mean, the biggest news of AEW. It was kind of like a slower storyline week, I would say. Besides the MJF versus Cody Rhodes, I would say the biggest thing would be the Inner Circle versus Moxley, continuing their storyline. basically, Inner Circle bringing out 10 Puerto Rican guys and trying to start a giant mosh pit against Moxley, and him having to be basically taken back from. Well, Jericho was taken back at one point. He looked like he was like out of breath when he was trying to fight everybody. But basically, the storyline is Moxley versus everybody, which is kind of like it kind of reminds me of the old Stone Cold feuds that he used to have, where it was Stone Cold versus everybody against the McMahons, which is kind of giving me vibes of that. I like the storyline though, just because Moxley's he's the part of the outer circle, I guess you could say, versus the inner circle. What are your thoughts?
I mean, to me, I really think the only decent storyline, like you said, is Moxley and the Jericho storyline with the inner circle. I just don't feel like
Which they announced, I think it was a few days ago, that they're going to obviously have a title match at AEW's pay-per-view Revolution. So that's going to be the big match for I think it's their first pay-per-view since, I think, 2 months ago. I forget what the last one was called. I'm not very familiar. I'm still new to this whole AEW thing, so.
Because I think, aren't they only doing like they're only doing like 4 or 5 pay-per-views a year, right?
4 a year, so I think this obviously is the first one of 2020, so that's going to be one of the biggest matches. Will Moxley beat Jericho? Will there be a second AEW champion, I guess you could say, in company history? Because Jericho has been hoarding the belt ever since AEW started, basically. So,
I feel like, in my opinion, when I look at the AEW product, I think the storyline's great with Chris Jericho and Moxley, of course. I think that's probably, really, in my opinion, it's really the only storyline I feel like has momentum on AEW right now. I don't think the women's division, as we discussed a couple weeks back, I don't think that's doing well, my opinion. I really don't feel like I think it's too chaotic what's going on in the women's division. I mean, the tag team, I don't feel like the tag team division is just like, ugh, there's nothing really, it's not bad, but it's not great, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, I guess I'm not seeing any decent storylines coming out of there. In my opinion, I really feel like when it comes to the All Elite, I don't feel like they have any good storylines for them. I don't know if I really like the Cody Rhodes storyline. I mean, why is he with Arn Anderson? Like, I guess to me, I don't think Cody Rhodes needs him to make Cody Rhodes more popular. And
I believe he's with Arn Anderson because Cody Rhodes runs part of the company, and Arn Anderson is also part of the head guys of the company. So,
but I feel like Cody Rhodes is purposely, I don't know how to explain this. I feel like Cody Rhodes, they're purposely giving Cody Rhodes smaller storylines instead of putting him in the main title picture. Do you agree with that?
Well, he was part of the main title picture, but, he lost the opportunity to. That's part of the whole entire storyline that him and Jericho had, that if he lost, he can never challenge Jericho for another title match. Now, that was the asterisk, though. You got to understand that.
Right.
He can't challenge Jericho for the title match. That doesn't mean that if Jon Moxley wins, he can't challenge Moxley. So, basically, Cody Rhodes is on the back burner right now, waiting for someone to defeat Jericho and get a title opportunity when Jericho loses the title belt. So.
Yeah, I mean, I get. Yeah, so
I do agree that I would say there's 3 storylines that are really intriguing for me. It's Hangman Page and Kenny Omega. Their dynamic with the tag team titles. And then you got Jericho versus Moxley, of course. I love the whole inner circle thing. It's one of those classic heel stables that is going against one person. And then, you got MJF versus Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes, no matter what storyline he puts himself in, he's always going to be one of the main attractions just because he's such a well-versed wrestler. And he's very good on the mic, very good in the ring, so.
I've been hearing more and more about Hangman Page. I mean, what I've seen, he seems like a decent wrestler, and I'm getting more and more. You can kind of hear the commentating team when they sit there and they talk about how what a great wrestler is. You can tell AEW putting a lot of stock in him. Obviously, teaming him with Kenny Omega, pretty big move to do that. I mean, I would say out of the top 3 wrestlers at AEW, Kenny Omega is right up there. So
and they're definitely setting those 2 up, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, for a tag team title defense against the Young Bucks, which honestly I think that would be an amazing match because the Young Bucks is probably one of the best tag team wrestlers in the industry as a whole. Maybe behind the Usos. But I think that would be a great match at a big pay-per-view. Maybe the next one they're setting themselves up for. But right now AEW, I think they're trying to just get the momentum back up. So when the next pay-per-view comes around, there's a lot of hype around it. But it's a slow grind at that point.
Well, they got to work. I mean, to kind of give you some analytic and numbers, my favorite department. The ratings were down again this week for AEW. I mean, they're still beating NXT by a little bit, but they're continuing to go down. So I don't think that's necessary. I don't think they're necessarily happy with that. So
I'll say this like I've been saying for the past 9 episodes. It's a new show.
I know.
They're still relatively new, and they're still trying to find their audience. And a lot of people probably that are going to watch it in the future haven't really started watching it yet, and haven't given it a chance. The reason why I like AEW so much is because of how they set themselves up to be so different compared to WWE. They literally, anything that they do, they try to be different compared to WWE, which I enjoy because it's a nice refresh of wrestling that WWE puts out. WWE is going to be more sports entertainment, more spectacle. AEW is going to be more raw, cutting edge. I mean, they use a lot more swear words. They get down to the nitty-gritty of more wrestling.
They just gotta stop talking about WWE.
I actually, like I said, and we said this before, I love when they talk about WWE. I think it's great. I think it only helps them, and it only helps WWE as a whole.
I think some of it's funny. Like, Jericho knows how to make it funny at times. But to some of these other guys that's talking, just like, stop talking about WWE. WWE and NXT are way too big for some of these other guys to be talking.
Watch this. Mike, watch this. Can you give me an example besides Jericho who said something about WWE?
The announcers have talked about him before. JR made a comment about it.
Wrestlers, who? And what did JR say?
I don't remember.
Here we go. Yeah.
A lot of them talk about it on Twitter and stuff. If I look it up, I can pull it. I've read it over the last couple of months.
Yeah.
I don't remember necessarily everyone who says it.
Yeah.
Tyler loves to zing in when he has an opportunity to take Dan on for further information.
Take him out at the knees. I'm used to that.
So let's keep talking about Wednesday. NXT. We had some interesting.
Yeah, the big news was for NXT last week was the Dusty Rhodes Classic, which is the tag team tournament to crown the new tag team a tag team champion to fight against the tag team champions at the time, which is part of the Undisputed Era. So Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle won the Broserweights, won the Dusty Rhodes Classic. Now they're going to have a shot to go up against facing the Undisputed Era, which I'm drawing a blank of what their names are. Undisputed Era. It's Fish and something. Tag team.
I don't understand.
Dan's supposed to come in. Bobby Fish and O'Reilly. That's who it is.
Now
they're going to face Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish for the tag team titles at Portland TakeOver. That was like the biggest match. It was I watched the whole entire thing. I thought the match was incredible. I love the Broserweights finishing move where you got Matt Riddle kneeing some dude in the face and Pete Dunne taking the back of their head practically off. But I thought it was a great match, and I think they're going to be a great tag team. Matt Riddle's easily my favorite wrestler in NXT.
I think he's interesting. I think obviously this whole background with the UFC makes him a little bit more popular than you see a lot of other people.
I would say his whole background with marijuana makes him interesting.
He kind of has that surfer-looking look, You can kind of like, oh, he could be on whatever he's on. But I'm not accusing anyone. It is what it is.
It's legal in some states.
Right. I think the best part I liked about NXT is was the whole Adam Cole Undisputed storyline with I'm going to destroy this guy's name.
I cannot wait to hear this.
Tom Salo, is that my right? Tom Maso.
What? What was that?
Tom Maso.
Ciampa.
What?
Tommaso Ciampa.
Ciampa, there you go. He came down and called out Adam Cole and said, I want to, come down. He put the table with the X on it. I'm putting you through this table. You do contract signing. And of course, Adam Cole comes down but they didn't. What I didn't like, he actually took out the Undisputed Era. I don't think they showed it. It was after.
No, they showed the wreckage basically.
Right, they didn't actually show him doing it. Right. Which I wish I was on there. But oh no, I thought the whole segment was kind of cool. Now obviously it sets up for a match for the NXT Championship at Takeover. So I kind of thought I thought that storyline and that whole segment.
I think that's going to be an interesting match, and I really hope that they're starting to take the belts off the Undisputed Era. If you noticed, 2 weeks ago, Keith Lee beat what's his name, Roderick Strong for the North American title. So now Keith Lee has that title. Maybe they're setting up to take away the title against from O'Reilly and Fish, and then taking over the title from Adam Cole for Ciampa. And I think that at Portland TakeOver, that would be a most opportune time to take away all the titles from the Undisputed Era, kind of strip them clean, maybe start fresh and have fresh guys on the title, because I feel like, especially with Adam Cole, he's more of like the coward character where he wins a lot of his matches in a cowardly fashion, and I think Ciampa really deserves the title back after not actually losing it. He's a great wrestler. He's great on the mic, and I love how he calls the belt Goldie.
I like Undisputed Era. I like them all having the titles. I like that dominance that they had. So I really want because I'll be honest. I've said it on this show before. My NXT knowledge and experience is lacking. I haven't watched that much of it over the years, so I'm trying to get into it now. Obviously, with the Wednesday Night Wars,
it's by far the best show that WWE puts out.
I believe it. A lot of people tell me that, so I'm trying to get in and watch it. What I've seen so far, the Undisputed Era, I really like the guys involved. I like them all having the belts. So I like to go back and kind of watch more of what they've done over the last year and kind of get familiar with them. But from what I can see, I think I like them having the titles. I think it makes for a good storyline.
I think if there was any team that should have all the titles that would make the most sense, it would be Imperium, which is the team they're from like all over Europe. They have like a guy from Germany, a guy from the UK. That just seems like a group that would be the dominant group, as you would say, over Undisputed Era to have all the belts. They just have the look. Where Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, he's like the same height as me. I may even have bigger biceps than that guy. And why is he having the NXT title? It just doesn't, the look isn't there for me, and it's not believable for me. But, then again, they're really good at, in the ring, and they put on all the best matches. I mean, at the NXT award show at the end of the year last year, Adam Cole and Undisputed Era practically took every single award for best rivalry, best match, best everything. So
right. No, I definitely like that group, and I think you're seeing that with all the programs now. You're seeing a lot of factions and groups starting to form. On you got the one that you got the one that's being created on Raw with Seth Rollins and the AOP, and you got the ones that are being created, the Inner Circle on AEW. You have the Undisputed Era on NXT. Then you have on SmackDown, you have like Baron Corbin and his group of goons.
Bloodlines.
Yeah, his group of goons that he has over there. So you're kind of seeing him.
Actually, as Michael Cole would say, his cronies.
Cronies, exactly. So I think you're seeing a lot of different storylines evolving on all the programs, and I believe that. I think that makes for great program. You got to have a great heel faction that's causing disruption on the shows, and I think that makes for good programming. And whether they're heels or faces, I think I like the heels ones myself. I think those are better.
Most of them are heel factions anyways.
But I think
I'm pretty sure all the ones that you named are. So
is Undisputed Era really considered a heel?
Yeah.
Okay. But I think a lot of people like them though, even though they're heels. They're kind of one of those.
I mean, a lot of people, yeah, because they're true NXT wrestlers. Like they all came up through NXT. Like everybody knows them from NXT and whatnot. So before they even formed Undisputed Era, they, all the wrestlers were farmed out of NXT. But I mean, that's pretty much it for Wednesday. Let's jump into Friday. Friday Night SmackDown. Two really big things to hit on. Braun Strowman wins the Intercontinental title. If we could go back, didn't we say this last week or 2 weeks ago that Shinsuke Nakamura needed to get the title off of him?
We did. We did.
This is Braun Strowman's, by the way, first singles title. out of the, I don't know how long he's been WWE, but I feel like it's been almost 6 or 7 years. And this is his first time winning it.
Any title?
Any singles title. This is his first singles title he's ever held.
Get the hell out of here. I actually did not know that.
And I don't think I don't know, I'm sure you remember, but his only other title was a tag team title with a 9-year-old. So
great storyline. Fantastic storyline. I died laughing when they turned the belts in. But yeah,
I got to go to school the next day. I can't hold the title.
Well, my favorite part of that storyline was where he went and he randomly grabbed the kid, and he brought him up and put him on the ring, and he put the rope down. And he goes, "Get in there!" And you could hear the crowd laughing, and the kid just gets over the rope and gets in there. And it was hilarious. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, the kid's name. It's right on the top of my tongue.
Yeah, I know he has black hair. I can picture him right now, but I don't know his name. But no, I mean it's definitely good that they took off. Like we said, and maybe we're Nostradamus over here on the Ring the Bell podcast. Maybe we could predict the future. Maybe we could predict matches. Don't expect us to predict the lottery, but
what a shame.
Nakamura definitely needed the belt off of him. The Intercontinental title needed a new person to hold it. And I think Braun Strowman, I hope what they do is they have him run ravage over any single person. Have him hold that belt for a long time. He's a immovable force. He's bigger than the Big Show. Have this guy hold the belt for a long time. That was a plug at Mike. I was hoping you would look at me, but
he's back here. He's eating his Reese's Pieces cup.
It's a Reese's
not
cup,
Oreos.
Dan. There's Reese's Pieces and there's a Reese's cup. Not both.
Here goes Dan again, being half right on everything.
Top of his tongue, he says.
As you pointed out, like you and Tyler like to do, point out when I get something half right and half wrong. So what's
I've never met someone who gets something always half right though. Like literally everything that you say is always half right. There's a half of a validity to everything you say. Basically, you're a true Slytherin. What's that supposed to mean?
Don't forget it, Harry Potter. So let's go through SmackDown. I mean, first off, I'm done with this whole Baron Corbin Roman Reigns storyline. So sick of it. They've been battling each other. It feels like for 9 months now. Just end it. Because now they had a dog food challenge, and of course now this was Roman Reigns' opportunity to dump dog food all over Baron Corbin.
Was absolutely hilarious. When he was tied to the post, you could tell he was putting his arm up so he wouldn't get any in his face, and then the Usos and Roman Reigns were like purposely shoving it in his face, and they were just laughing. I thought it was great. I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I do agree. I thought that whole entire storyline probably should have ended at Royal Rumble because I thought they had a great match between Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin. I thought it would have been the most opportune time to finish that storyline, but maybe Vince McMahon has something up his sleeve where he can extend that storyline out until WrestleMania. I don't know how he's going to do it, but really, he's lost me on that storyline, I'm sure, along with you, of, come on, let's get Roman Reigns a really, really good opponent at WrestleMania. He deserves it.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad, and I hope he's done with Baron Corbin.
This is just a random thought, but you know what they should do? Is they should have like a fatal 4-way or like a 6-way for like the championship. Maybe like a fatal 4-way for each show though. So at WrestleMania you have a fatal 4-way or a triple threat for the NXT championship, the Raw championship, and the SmackDown championship.
We went over that last week. Remember, we talked about how they're lacking the fatal 4-way matches and the.
But I was primarily thinking of like when I first thought about this was having crosses. So like maybe have a match with like Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Brock Lesnar, or whoever. Who's the SmackDown championship? Who's holding it right now?
Right now is the Bray Wyatt.
Oh yeah. So I don't know, something interesting they could do, but I just don't know what they're gonna do with Roman Reigns right now. I just don't. I think they lost all momentum on the whole Baron Corbin versus Roman Reigns.
It's true. Hey, I'm just checking our chat real quick.
And then the next thing that happened, it was John Morrison and The Miz winning a shot at the SmackDown Tag Team titles, which I think is going to be an interesting fight between them and the New Day. I really like watching John Morrison. He's actually putting on a lot better performances than I expected him to after being away from WWE for so long. You know, him and The Miz have great chemistry together. I think that it'll be some very good matches. And, you know, you could honestly put those two together and have them fight the New Day at WrestleMania, and it'd be a very good match. I feel like they could put on. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think first off, John Morrison's always been, I thought, a great wrestler. I actually enjoyed watching him wrestle before he left the first time. I thought
I was
he was
never a fan of him because him as Johnny Nitro was always being a heel and fighting against the Hardys. So I always hated him.
Here we go with the Hardys again. Tyler's favorite clan. You know, and I mention The Rock that all the time. He's mentioning the Hardys every time.
You guys have your characters.
I'm just speaking on why I didn't like John Morrison, and I didn't give him a fair shot, but he's really proven me wrong as a wrestling fan.
I thought he's great, and I still think he's still talented. And I love the whole Miz, and they're obviously going to win. They're obviously going to go on and win the titles because they have to give them a run. For
obviously.
I think they will. They're going to give them a run with the titles because they got to keep them busy with a storyline.
You know, what I could see is, and what I would hope would be happening. Here's Tyler being a writer for WWE. Have them fight at WrestleMania, them lose against the New Day, and then one of them turn on each other. And I think the Miz versus Morrison would be an even better storyline. I think those two are very good as singles competitors, and they really kind of truly need to be singles competitors because they're so good at it. Have them fight against each other.
And I think it'll lead to that eventually. I think that obviously,
yeah.
They'll have a run with each other. They'll probably do a year. They'll probably be involved in a storyline with each other for a year now.
That's a little lengthy.
Do you?
I would say at most 3 months, if that. And I think that's
3 months. They'll have the titles for like 4 months. They'll be
I'm saying they're not going to win the titles at WrestleMania.
Oh, they're going to win the titles.
No way they're going
to win the title. They're going to win the titles, and then they're going to go 2 months with the titles as a top tag team, and then they'll lose it, and they'll battle each other for why they lost it, which will leave. It's going to be about 8 months of storyline between The Miz and Morrison.
Nope.
I guess we're going to agree to disagree. Dan as a writer is very different as Tyler as a writer. You got to stretch things out.
Yours is trash.
I don't know about that. That's not accurate.
You can't even write in English. So how are you supposed to be a writer?
Wow.
That's not accurate.
Coming from the guy that needs someone to proofread all of his documents before he sends them? Okay.
It's thorough work to make sure that you have no spelling mistake. It's easier for other people to find your spelling mistakes than you, because when you go back and reread it in your mind, you know what it says, so you don't really actually see the spelling errors.
It's called Microsoft Word, and they have a thing called spell check.
First off, I don't spell things wrong. Okay, it's grammar mistakes. You don't spell things wrong.
Not only do you spell things wrong, you also say it, and you don't know how. It's almost like
let's keep going.
It's a valid argument. It's almost like when someone puts something in one language and does like Google Translate and copy and pastes it all in English. That's Dan's English right there, because he misses like integral words to put into the whole entire page, and it just sounds like a caveman. Anyways, that's why I took over in writing the show. Thank you. You're far too kind. Anyways, on Monday Night Raw, the biggest news was Ricochet winning a shot at the World Championship against Brock Lesnar at Super Showdown. Dan almost ruined this earlier in the show by spoiling that. But
how did I?
Brock Lesnar. Well, you were like, oh, nothing really big has been announced for Super Showdown. Well, yeah, it was on Raw, dummy.
Oh, right.
Wow.
Keep going.
Wow. Anyways, I'm glad that Ricochet won, and I'm very excited to see how this dynamic between him and Brock Lesnar is going to be at the Super Showdown.
Paul Heyman loves Ricochet. He's always liked him.
So you think the only reason why Ricochet won was because Paul Heyman likes him, and not because Ricochet is one of the up-and-coming superstars? Very fascinating to watch.
I think people like him, and I think Paul Heyman likes him. So yes, I think it's a combination of both.
Yeah, but didn't you say earlier that you didn't like how Ricochet won?
No.
On the phone, you said that you didn't understand why Ricochet won. You said you didn't like it.
No, I was like, oh Jesus, here we go. But they're obviously building that storyline.
If anything, I don't think you said, "Oh Jesus." I'm pretty sure you laughed like Joker laughs.
I laughed because it's a classic. Ricochet. I think has a lot of momentum. He shouldn't be going up against Brock Lesnar for the title just to get destroyed at Super Showdown. I think it's a stupid storyline because he's obviously not gonna. What?
Isn't that the point?
Again, we're back to the Super Showdown has no point, and you're just ruining Ricochet.
Not necessarily, because Ricochet can put himself over. Brock Lesnar could still put Ricochet over, like they always do, and still have Ricochet losing. And I think it's a safe bet because Ricochet's so good in the ring that, he's not going to hurt Brock Lesnar. You're not putting him up against a huge dude that could possibly injure Brock Lesnar before WrestleMania, and vice versa. I think Ricochet's he's gonna put on a great match, and it's different. Brock Lesnar is used to facing all these big guys like The Undertaker, Goldberg, or somebody that's going to be fast and agile, someone who has like these high flying moves. I think is going to be fun to see against Brock Lesnar. Unless they come out and he have 5 seconds, then I'll be pissed.
Probably. He all he had to do is lift him up with one finger to give him the F5 on Monday. It was just like, you see the size difference between the two of them? It's ridiculous.
I'm actually excited for that match, honestly.
I'm excited for it. It'd be interesting. I like Ricochet. I thought I laughed when I saw that he won. I'm like, of course he's gonna win because it's a stupid storyline for Showdown, and I do know he's a Paul Heyman guy. Paul Heyman loves him, so of course with Paul running Raw and doing all the storylines, he's gonna put him in with Brock.
Right. Well, anyways, Rhea Ripley also came out from NXT, the NXT Women's Champion, and challenged Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. She said, in quotes, almost, "Why challenge someone else for the title when you could have a shot at the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania against me?" What do you think about that?
I thought it was, but he came in. First off, she came out and just brutally attacked Liv Morgan, like laid her right out.
That's wrong.
What do you mean?
That's Ruby Riott.
Well, I have doubles of them.
Really? Did I get them confused?
Oh my god.
know what she had.
Someone give me a new co-host.
I think you may be right. How did I get those two confused? I maybe got those.
I can't do it anymore.
I got those two confused, I guess. All right, you're right. Okay, we'll say that storyline.
I am right. I know.
No, you're right. So we'll say that for later. But yes, I think it's interesting. No one ever thought about throwing Charlotte Flair into the NXT, throwing her into the NXT Championship at WrestleMania. I mean, even when I thought, hey, these could be two different things. I never pictured her going for the NXT title. And it's always like, okay, she's definitely go for Raw or SmackDown, not the NXT. But what do you think about
How does that work if she wins? If they end up facing each other, how does it work if Charlotte Flair wins the NXT title? Does she just get dropped down to NXT? Like, I feel like that's almost a demotion.
No, well, not if they're trying to make it.
I know they're trying to make everything even at this point, but I feel like NXT is like, obviously these are our next future up and coming stars. I know Finn Balor did it obviously, but Charlotte Flair is the best of the best in the women's division.
Right. If they're trying, it all depends on what their goal is. If they're trying to make NXT like Raw and SmackDown, then look at Finn Balor. He's over there. He's kind of. You got Finn Balor over NXT, and he's kind of leading the way there. I would say that wasn't a demotion. He'd probably get more out of that than what he would get on Raw or SmackDown. I think I
agree, but like Charlotte Flair should be getting that same thing on Raw or SmackDown, whatever one she's on. Whenever she's on TV, that is the number one women's fighter in this business, besides Becky Lynch.
I don't think she's going for. However, you could say they're getting tired of her being on SmackDown and Raw winning those titles. So I could see her going for the NXT title. I could see it.
But she's already done it. She's already won it. I feel like the NXT, it's just like one tier below at this point in time. Not saying that ever in the future NXT will be on the same playing field as Raw and SmackDown. I just feel like at this time they're not.
But see, here's your problem.
You have NXT losing in the ratings to AEW.
Right. But first off, you got to look at the problems you got. Well, let's take a look at the current title holders. Becky Lynch, the man. You're not taking the title off of her. She's obviously destroying.
And you can't have another Charlotte versus Becky Lynch rivalry.
Right. Now let's take a look at SmackDown. You have Naomi. You have Bayley. You have Sasha Banks. So it's kind of like she's not going for either one of those. So what are you going to do? So you got the only other option is, okay, have her go to NXT. She can battle with NXT for that title on a show that's battling on the Wednesday Night Wars. May not be the worst thing. Could help NXT with ratings. Meanwhile, you keep your Raw title. You have your Raw title match being with the ones that are involved in there, and SmackDown. I mean, they made that. And let's be honest, you can't keep Charlotte Flair on the side without the title. I mean, you can only do that for so long until you got to start putting her something. You know what I mean? Like Charlotte Flair deserves to have a title, so it's kind of like.
I'm not saying it's not going to be a great match, and I'm not interested in seeing Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair because I am. You know, it's something that's going to be fresh, good product for a wrestling fan to see Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley because they're the two tops in their divisions. But I mean, I just feel like from a standpoint. They're demoting Charlotte Flair, and then again, playing devil's advocate, they're trying to raise NXT by bringing Finn Balor, by bringing Charlotte Flair down, and bringing it to the next level, basically.
They're trying to make it. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If they're going head to head with AEW, it should be considered a premier show. I mean, it's not.
Right.
I mean, I think what you're saying is, I think they've come to the conclusion that they're making NXT equivalent to SmackDown and Raw. I think you're going to start to see more and more.
Which I think they need to, honestly.
Right. I think you're going to see more and more that it becomes not so much a development program anymore like it was before. I think it's going to come down to it's equivalent to Raw and SmackDown, but it's a different style of wrestling than Raw and SmackDown. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like it's a different type of, as you can see watching the programs now, it's clearly different. The way they wrestle, the way they do promo, it's a different setup. A different production, but I mean, I could go back, not to get too much off topic. I could see her fighting for the title, but I can also see her losing for the NXT title. Doesn't mean she's gonna win. I mean, so it keeps her busy in that storyline while they actually have two other. They can put other people in the championship matches for Raw and SmackDown. I mean, just because she's in the NXT doesn't mean that Charlotte's gonna win. She may lose. Which could lead to a rematch. It can keep her busy with NXT for a while.
Yeah. And then the other big news that you mistakenly got wrong was Ruby Riott returns back to Raw after, I think she was gone for 9 months with double shoulder surgery, and attacked Liv Morgan after the match, which I thought was pretty interesting, seeing that they were a tag team. They were a faction, I guess you could say, for the longest time. But that was a big return the biggest return of the week, obviously, because nobody else returned. And then you had Asuka versus Becky Lynch for the title in the future. They announced that on Raw as well, too. So
again,
those were the two big things in the women's division. I would say, well, three big things in the women's division. So big week for the women's division, I would say, on Raw.
I guess I got them confused with them both returning, technically. I guess I kind of got them a little confused with both of them, at least returning to Raw. I mean, obviously, one's the NXT or women's champion, so she's not really returning. But you get what I'm saying. No, I really don't.
No, I don't.
Let's just skip that debacle and move on. We got Drew McIntyre and going into the men's. I mean, again, Drew McIntyre. Why is he fighting the 24/7 title holder? Why?
To show his dominance.
Is it necessary?
They're burying the belt. That's what they did. They buried the belt completely, which, is a shame. But, Drew McIntyre, they're just trying to raise him up on a different pedestal. I thought it was hilarious. He says, when I drop this mic, I'm going to give you a Claymore in 3 seconds. And he did. And the Claymore is by far the most devastating move in WWE right now.
I'll give you that. Aleister Black. Here's another one. I just don't understand his storylines. And he's going up against Eric Young. I just don't find those type of matches at all entertaining.
I mean, are you pulling from like all of the rubber matches, like all the ones that are just like the worst matches of the show? Like,
I didn't find them entertaining. Did you?
I mean, obviously.
So well, let me ask you a question. So not going over. Yeah, I mean, I do find the rubber match. Why are they continuing to do them? It's like all they keep doing is matches that we've seen and seen
They
and
need to fill in
seen.
time for a 3-hour show.
I'll get that, but you can't match us with other wrestlers.
They need to put these guys over because I don't know. Drew McIntyre won the 2020 Royal Rumble. They need to add a little momentum behind these guys.
Do you not remember lessons number 1 and 2 when playing WWE SmackDown versus Raw 2009 in GM mode? That you can't have.
This isn't GM mode. This is real life, though.
First off, it's not GM mode.
GM mode is based on probably based off an algorithm. First off,
they even tell you in the GM mode in the guidebook it says do not book the same matches for multiple weeks if people get bored of it. So even the video game GM mode tells you not to do that. But yet here WWE is doing it.
McIntyre versus what's his face wasn't the same match.
I get that. Aleister Black and Eric Young.
Each other. What?
Aleister Black and Eric Young.
That's maybe the second week they faced.
King Corbin and Roman Reigns.
That's one of the main storylines on SmackDown.
Asuka and Becky Lynch.
Another main story. The last two that you named, well, besides Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin, have been for titles. Like, those are for titles. So basically what you're saying is we can't book Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz because they've already fought twice.
No. Okay, months apart when they do those matches. What I'm saying is I don't want to watch Roman Reigns and King Corbin on Friday night and then the week later come back and watch the match all over again just to watch the match again 3 weeks later. And then, they have a finale on the pay-per-view. Oh, well, great, that'll be the end of the storyline. And then once you hit that storyline, you think it's all over with. They're wrestling again on Friday night. That's my whole point. It gets a little tiring to watch King Corbin and Roman Reigns with the same storyline over and over and over again. That's my point. Okay, we got anything else to go over on Monday Night Raw? Brock Lesnar came out, ruined the match.
Might as well get into Dan's new segment, Dan's Business Insider. I created the name. It could be better. It could be a better name. I just came up with it in 3 seconds because, it's not my segment, so I'm not going to come up with a good name for Dan,
Oh, sweet Jesus. WWE made some news this week, obviously, with the so-called departure of their co-presidents. And, obviously a lot of people are anticipating that it's going to be because of the earnings are being down for the fourth quarter, and their stock dropped 15%. Almost, I think, from like $60-something down to $45. It's a lot. And they've lost almost $1 billion, or $500 million in value in the WWE.
Why are you looking at me like
that's a lot of money. It's some pretty big news. So it'll be interesting to find out who they bring in. I have my suspicions of who they were going to bring in as either a new president or to fill the void. Maybe a Stephanie McMahon or a Shane McMahon. Another McMahon in the picture. Let's use these two as scapegoats while our earnings are down. Bring in someone. I mean, Stephanie McMahon's a chief brand.
Where has Stephanie been, by the way?
Stephanie?
Yeah, is she still injured from going through a table 8 months ago? I haven't seen her in 10 years. It feels like. I'm not complaining.
They have all the McMahons off the storylines right now. They don't have them involved in anything.
Which I kind of dislike. I always like having it consistent with a McMahon in a storyline.
Have you not learned they do this every 5 years? It's the cycle. The McMahons go away for 2 years, they're not involved, and then they start to realize, oh wow, our ratings get up when we have the McMahons there, so they bring them back for a while, and then people get tired of them, so they take them away for 2 years. I mean, is Shane McMahon even part of the company anymore? No one really knows. I read that he actually organized the Men's Royal Rumble, though. That's the only thing that he's done. So I don't know why. I really would like to sit on. I'd like to be a fly on the wall for a McMahon dinner. Is Shane at all want to be part of WWE in the management role?
He's still low key butthurt that his dad didn't buy UFC. So
does he not have a valid point? He should have. Company is worth a lot. Not so much now with a lot of high end wrestlers departing, but I mean I feel like they're lacking some high profile.
Instead of Vince McMahon buying UFC, what he does now is just bring UFC fighters to WWE, so
I guess all in all it works out well.
If I can't have UFC, then I'm going to take all their old, dusty washed up UFC fighters anyways, so
Uh,
WWE is very good at doing that anyways, keeping guys around for a lot longer than they should be.
WWE signed Killer Cross and Timothy Thatcher. Timothy Thatcher. I don't really have any experience on him.
What?
Who? Huh?
What?
So I'm guessing there'll be.
What?
I'm trying to see if they're like
What?
former.
That's my
Cross was. Killer Cross was an Impact Wrestling wrestler. So that's interesting. I don't know that much about Thatcher, but I guess I can go look into that. But WWE signed them. They sent out a press release today that they're both signed. And Patrick Mahomes got the WWE Kansas City Chiefs belt. You see the photo?
Which, I saw the whole entire parade like on Instagram from a plethora of different accounts. Actually, Travis Kelce was holding it pretty much the whole entire time and getting beer dumped on him, and a lot of people want to make fun of WWE. Here I'm going on a little bit of a rant, but everybody wants to make fun of WWE for it being fake or it being corny or this or that. But deep down inside, everybody loves wrestling.
They do.
They all wanted to be a part of it. They all want to clack beers together like they're Stone Cold or throw beers up on and chug them and yada yada yada. Hold the WWE belt. But no one wants to come forward and say, you know what, WWE and wrestling's actually pretty cool. So.
Well, at the end of the day, they like the whole concept of it. The belt. They like people walk around with the belt, and you're the champion. You're the belt. Where does that come from? Wrestling. So deep down, everyone has a connection to wrestling in some way or form. Tyler's right in that. I agree 100%. I think that's something that. But yeah, I saw an Instagram photo of Mahomes wearing the belt, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I thought that was interesting.
I do like how WWE gives out a belt to the world champion of each major sport.
Pretty much anything, yeah. The Super Bowl, MLB, NBA.
Each major sport, which I just said.
Do they do one for hockey?
Why are you naming out the sports? I just said each major sport.
Do they do one for hockey or no?
Doesn't matter. Each major sport.
There you go. I think we're up for time. You got anything else you want to go over?
Nope. Gonna be talking about what happens next week. Across the board.
All the shows.
See you guys next week.
Anything else?
Ring the bell.
That's the Ring the Bell podcast. We got the No Look podcast coming up next.
Drop Dead.
And we got the Dream Team still going on tonight with Tom and Mike. And then Dave will be in the closeout tonight with the Weekend Wednesday. Episode 9 of Ring the Bell signing off. We'll see you next week and keep watching throughout the week. Oh, Call of Duty tournament this Saturday, 1 o'clock right here on the channel. We got a commentating team and everything, so make sure you check that out this Saturday, 1 o'clock right here on Insane Games TV. Adios.